And we're live. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another Lifter LMS webinar. Today, I'm with Patrick Stiles of Vitalytics, and we're going to get into one of my favorite topics. In many ways, this topic of using video for sales and for engagement inside of courses, and taking a data-driven approach and different little tips and tricks that you can use with video is kind of how I started in marketing and sort of led me into the course world. I used to be that guy who always walked around with his digital video camera. And for me, it was in remote places, climbing trips and all kinds of things like that, always filming things. But that was how I got into video, which later got me into online video, which later got me into video marketing. And we're really lucky today to be joined by Patrick Stiles. He's the CEO of a company called Vitalytics, which is a video host with a unique spin on really taking the perspective of getting intelligence and analytics out of your video, hence the name Vitalytics, so that you can make higher converting, better performing, more engaging videos for the sales process and also the learning process. But Patrick, thank you so much for joining us on the webinar.
Yeah, thanks for having me. This should be a lot of fun.
And if you like this webinar, you're going to be seeing a lot of Patrick lately. Patrick is also going to be on our podcast, LMS Cast, which he's going to be on this week's episode, which you'll see on iTunes, Stitcher, in the Facebook group, YouTube, and everywhere else. So if you're digging this conversation, be sure to check out the next episode of LMS Cast. Well, let's kind of start before we get into the presentation. For all of you out there listening, we've got a bunch of people: Susan, Randy, Peter, Navi, Michael, Martine, Mark, Joy, Jorge, Jan, Harry, Elle, David, Kurt, Chuck, Amy, Alex. So far, thank you guys so much for coming to this call and this presentation. If you guys have any questions at all, I'd encourage you to use the Q&A feature on Zoom. It's kind of down there at the bottom, and that's a neat way to ask questions that we'll get to at the very end. But you can also use the chat, and then there's even this little feature in Zoom here where you can raise your hand at the very end if anybody wants to go live and have a live conversation with Patrick and myself about video. We'd love to do that. So those are all the ways. Best place to go while we're talking is the Q&A feature here in Zoom. But before we start talking about video, can you tell us just a little bit, Patrick, about who you are and what Vitalytics is?
Yeah, sure. I have some slides on this.
Okay.
Yeah, but I can dive in real fast. So I'm a serial entrepreneur. I've been an entrepreneur for the last 8 years. I've started companies in a lot of different industries that aren't necessarily related. I've had a recruiting firm, an agency, info publishing, which I think a lot of your audience is in that bucket. I've done several companies in the health space. And then of course I did Vitalytics because I was sick and tired of not being able to know what was working inside of my videos. And that was a massive tech project, a massive tech business. Yeah, so that's really kind of my background, and it's been a fantastic journey that's brought me around the world and really allowed me to grow and achieve an amazing lifestyle and stuff that I didn't really ever think was going to be possible. So here I am.
That's awesome. That's a great intro. And video is it's one of those backbone pieces of online education and membership sites and everything. It's an important part of how we sell in the modern era. Even what we're doing right now and having this conversation, video is a big part of that. So I just want to underscore how important a lot of the things you're going to learn in this presentation are. And if you're at all interested in video marketing and engagement, I think you're going to get a lot of value out of this. And just take notes and see what you can implement and, other things that you want to explore as you get insights from this. I think that you're going to get a ton of great ideas. So I'm just going to hand it over to you, Patrick. And, let's get into it. Let's hear more about video and, getting more sales and getting more students engaged in completing courses.
Yeah, let's do it. All right. So I'm going to share my screen. And Oh, okay. Can you see my screen?
Yeah, I've got the Vitalytics logo there.
Yeah, that's my desktop. Good. You
Perfect.
got to live it every day, right?
Yep.
Cool. So let's dive in here. All right, cool. So I prepared some slides, and Chris is recording this, and we can get you some of these materials at the end. I'm going to go really fast. I think fast. I talk fast. And what I've actually done is put together the 10 commandments of selling and teaching with videos, right? So there's going to be kind of like a lot of different sub points here that we're going to hit and stuff like that. So I don't want you to get overwhelmed, but I'm just going to start going. And then Chris, if you want to dive in, interrupt me, or tell me to shut up at any time, feel free to do that. And we'll just dive in. So this webinar, this training is basically titled How to Dramatically Increase Your Course Sales, Stick Rates, and Completions with Hyper Effective Videos. So let me just move something here so I can see what I'm doing. All right, cool. And let's dive in. So Chris was just hitting on this, but before I get into all this stuff and my opinions and tactics that I've used, I want to tell you who the hell I am so you know why you should listen to me at all. So I'll breeze through this since we kind of just touched on some of my background, but I've started 7 companies over the last 8+ years in a bunch of different industries that I just talked about. And then of course the tech business, Vitalytics, which we can, that we're going to dive into in a little bit here. So I just fat fingered this. Cool. And this is actually something that is brand new. I haven't spoken about this publicly yet, but this is a picture of me in New York City at the OTC Markets, which is a stock exchange in New York City. And this is taken from last week. And since of last week, I'm actually the CEO of a publicly traded company. It's one of the other businesses that I do. I own a couple. Most of them run in the background and don't take up a lot of my time. This is the one that I'm spending a lot of my time on today. How I got started was I had a recruiting firm in 2009, and I made about 100 grand within my first year. I was in my mid 20s. I had 50 grand in the bank, cash in my checking account, not even getting interest. And I read the 4-Hour Work Week, and it just really spoke to me on a profound level that I was like, what am I going to go out and do with my life? I don't want to spend like the next 20 years building a recruiting firm. And I just wasn't really that enthusiastic about it. So in 2010, within 3 weeks of reading this book, I started my first health business. It was a dietary health supplement business. And and it was an online business, and I didn't know anything about marketing, about tech, about writing copy, about marketing or anything like that. I thought I did, but everything looks easier before you go and do it. And for the first year and a half, I didn't make any money. If I got a single sale in a month, I thought I was on fire, and I was just ecstatic. But really, I was banging my head against my keyboard, trying to figure out what was working and what wasn't. I was really in the dark. And the worst part is that I shut down that recruiting firm. And my friends and family thought that I was totally insane to go and do this because, it was spitting out 100 grand of profit. And that was just me working really part-time in it because my passion wasn't in it. So, after that first, 15, 18 months of me trying to get this online business to work, I discovered how to really sell with video. And I like to call what I use today to create effective videos is basically a framework. And you can think of it as an outline or a guiding post. And at this time, I discovered, basically a template, and I was listening to all these different gurus, and I was trying to do the opt-ins and the list building and the nurturing and demonstrate value and all this stuff. And then I said, to hell with it. I'm just going to go and, put these sales tactics into one video and drive traffic directly to that. I actually set up this funnel when I was on the beach at Koh Tao in Thailand. And it was like the world's slowest internet. And I was getting eaten alive by mosquitoes, but I did that and I started getting revenue. And every month since then, I've had revenues and I've had profit. And that first video that I created, that I set up on Koh Tao, Thailand, went on to actually sell $1 million a product. I didn't know it at the time because it kind of started slow and it was like, slow but steady over a couple of years. But it was really kind of the turning point in my business in a very big way. Like it was the biggest pivot that I've really ever had in my business career, where I did one little thing. I did it and then it started working for me immediately, and then it just changed everything. Because after I did this video that was selling, $10, $40, $50,000 a month consistently for like multiple years, I was able to expand my product line. I was able to have profits. I was able to stop freelancing on the side. I was able to hire staff to help me with my business. It got me out of the stress zone of operating my business. And that's where you want to be. If you're just scraping by and you're just like really counting every single penny, that's the stress zone, and that's not fun. So since then, I've created multiple multi-million-dollar videos. And yeah, this is the thing that I was just talking about. You know, my life and my business changed forever. So the money came in on autopilot, grew the business, expanded products, and hired staff. But the best thing is that I was doing this entire online business thing because I wanted to be able to travel the world, right? I had a recruiting firm that was already profitable. I was already my own boss, but I was married to the phone. I was married to my clients, and I was only as good as my last deal. I wanted a real business that grew and created revenue and profit independent of me. So, you know, over about a 5 or 6 year period, I spent about half of that time outside of the US, about a year in California. I'm originally from Denver. That's where I'm back today. And I lived in 8 countries in total, and I visited 39. I actually hit 30 countries by the age of 30, which, if you remember, I was starting all this stuff like my mid-20s, like 25, 26. That's when I was really getting started. So 27 and like into 28, I was really trying to, like, you know, get things to take off in a big way. And then as soon as it did, I was like, this is what I did it for. And I actually turned down investments, which is like a really interesting story. I won't get into too much right now, but I was offered $100,000 for a stake in my business. And I was like, what am I even going to do with this business or with this money? That's not my problem, you know? And it was really funny because I was talking to a friend and I go, if I could do one thing in the world, if I had 100 million in the bank, what would I do? And I was like, I would just travel. It was like, oh, well, then why am I going to take money if I don't need it, or I don't know what I'm going to spend it on, and I can maintain this independence and grow my business? So I lived all over, and it was a fantastic time. And this is my wife. She's the one in the middle, Erica. She's Venezuelan. We met in Buenos Aires just shy of 3 years ago. We lived in Buenos Aires, we lived in Spain, and now we live in Denver. And this is us from last December in Las Vegas, Nevada, getting married by the king himself, Elvis Presley. So, all right. So that's kind of my background, right? CEO of a public company, sold millions of dollars online, created dozens and dozens of videos. I've seen some bomb, I've seen some work. So that's why I'm coming to you today, partnered with Chris, to talk about how to dramatically increase your course sales, your stick rates, and your completions of hyper effective videos. So here's the problem. And this is true for pretty much any business out there. But I think in the course space, in the authority space, you're going to feel it more than, you know, practically anybody else out there, because online course saturation is never been higher. There's videos on YouTube, you know, there's podcasts, there's, you know, low dollar courses. And if you're just a lone voice in the night, you know, among many other people, it can be hard to get out there. And so even if you have the goods, even if you're a top authority in your space, it can be really hard to get your message out there and to have people believe that you have the goods to deliver. So, and this is counterintuitive for a lot of course creators, right? You know, if you're an authority and you're an expert in your field, you feel like your reputation or your track record should speak for itself, and it does. And that's, you know, like another tactic, but it's not true. You know, what they say is wrong. If you build it, they will not come. You have to sell it. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. And even if you have the goods, no one will know unless you, 1, get them to sign up for your course, and 2, get them to complete your course. And this is really important because we're talking about sales and we're talking about videos. And I know a lot of you on this training are course creators, right? So you kind of have a double-edged sword. You got to sell them on the course, and then you got to get them through the course, right? So it's a front end and almost a back end, because if nobody completes your course, they're not going to want to buy your next course. Chris can weigh in on this, but I know that I've done this hundreds of times, and I've also seen it in my own businesses. But, you know, I might buy something with the best of intentions and I never get to it. And then they come out with another product and I'm like, and then I have that twinge of guilt. It knots up in my stomach. And I'm like, I totally bombed on that last course. I spent $100 or whatever it was, or a monthly recurring thing, and I never logged in. So it is your responsibility to get them through your course so that they are your like raving fan customers. And it's your responsibility to do this. And it's your job to get them through your course, even if it has good information. That's your responsibility. So the key takeaway here that I want you to know right now, if you listen to nothing else, if this just shifts your mindset a little bit about how you're running your business and how you're trying to get your message out there, is that it's your job to sell people on signing up for your course and making sure they complete it.
Yeah, I just want to add the whole expertitis, curse of knowledge thing, you know, comes into play, that like it can be very difficult to sell and just assume that, okay, I'm the expert, they'll come. It's a very bad place to be in. And a lot of times, a lot of experts out there, they may have a negative perspective of sales or whatever, but it's very much a skill set that has to be part. If you're going to be an expert, you need to be able to sell, which really just means communicate effectively.
Yeah.
And then completion, that's the number one indication of success. Is, in my view, it's not the sales. Like, I mean, you can do product launches and you can learn to sell and be successful. But when you have repeat customers and when you launch new courses or add coaching to your courses or things like that, it's those repeat customers that is like the true sign of the glimmer of hope of sustainability for your teaching business.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I know that I've bought courses and consumed them, and I was like, wow, that was awesome. That was high impact. I didn't know any of that stuff, and it gave me really like concrete things that I can go and do. And then they come out with another thing. I don't even read the copy. I read the headline. I go, oh, this is a topic I want to learn, and I buy it. You know, and I've seen it on the other side where I'm talking to a friend right now who's starting a retreat, which is kind of like an offline course. And he's like, oh, I don't really like selling. I'm like, hey man, do you have the goods to help these people or not? Because if you can't, then pack up your bags and go and work at like a restaurant or do whatever else that you want to do in your life. But it's like, if you can actually help somebody, and this is a line from John Carlton, you owe it to them to actually sell them and to do everything in your power to get them in your course. And I'm assuming a lot of you have like guarantees and money back refunds and stuff like that. So yeah, I mean, like, what's the worst case thing here is that they get in there and it's not for them and you give them your money back. I mean, and you part as friends. So, I mean, it's your job to sell them, and it's really big. And I would say that you should, until you have revenue and conversions and profits, which is important, you should spend 10x the amount of time on marketing than on your course. I know people that have 8-figure businesses in the course space, right? That will launch a VSO, launch a video to sell it, and they won't even have the course. And they'll start making the course once they do it. Because also, as they sell, they find out what people respond to. And a lot of our assumptions before we get in there to create that video are proven wrong. So why create something if you're not even sure if the market wants it? So.
Yeah, pre-selling and doing some kind of pilot course. I mean, it's natural. And then I just want to throw out there another great book to read, like about the sales process for the non-salesperson, is To Sell as Human by Daniel Pink. It's a great book. It's just about how it works, and it's just, part of nature. It's not something to be afraid of. Yeah,
that's really cool. I've loved Dan Pink. I don't think I've done that one, but I've done a couple of his books. He's a great thinker. So cool. So this is Dan Kennedy, and this is a guy that I studied for a really long time, and this is something that always stood out in my mind. And he said that his career took off when he realized that people didn't want to learn things. And this is a subtle distinction, because you're like, well, then why are they going to come and learn Spanish or how to have a better relationship or whatever your course is about? And this is what you do. The solution is that you sell them what they want and you give them what they need. And people don't want to learn Spanish. I think we talked about this on our podcast that we did that is going to come out this week. But people don't want to learn Spanish. They want to speak to locals on their trip to Argentina. People don't want to learn how to date. They want to have a fulfilling relationship. And people don't want to learn marketing. And this is a big one because we can probably all identify with it. People don't want to learn marketing. They want to have a successful business that allows them to go and achieve, the lifestyle that they want. Whether it's, escaping the corporate rat race or being able to travel or something like that. So those are the things, what they want, whether it's travel, a successful business, a fulfilling relationship. That's what they want, and that's what you sell them. But then you deliver them the goods and the tool belts to dive into that, to get it. So I came up with these, and it's really kind of, it started as an organic process of how I was creating videos and doing outlines and like figuring things out. And I'll just talk about this real fast, is that if you don't know what you're going to write or put into a video before you do it, it's going to be a mess, right? So you have to kind of have a framework and an outline to go through so that you know like what's going to happen. And these are like the 10 things that I do to not only just launch a video, but to find out if it's working and like to kind of like inch it up little bit by little bit. Because when you can optimize something and give it a 10% bump on your sales, that's a little hinge that swings a big door. Meaning that it's an easy win. It doesn't increase your cost of, say, like marketing or something like that, but it could dramatically increase your profits, especially if your costs stay the same, but revenue goes up, then it goes straight to the bottom line as profit, which is the money that goes in your pocket. So the number one thing is that you got to get them watching the video. all right, and then grab their attention. And those are two different things. And I'm going to dive into some examples here in a second and talk about these. You got to track your video goals so that you know if it's working or not. Because everybody in 2017, or whenever you're listening to this, everybody talks about how important video is. And they're like, video, video, video. But it's like, well, how do you know what's working? And really, you know, until now, it's kind of a big black box. So that it can be a hard thing, and you can stay in the dark and throw darts, you know, against the wall and hope that you hit something, or you can just track your goals and see what's really happening. So you got to know what works. You can't confuse them. Don't bore them, and always be testing and stop them from leaving and get them to take action, and don't repeat yourself, right? So this is a lot of stuff, and this is the part where it's going to start kind of the rubber meets the road, and where you can actually take these things and go and do them on your own. And I figured it's just a lot easier if I show you, instead of trying to talk about these things like a professor and talking about theory, but actually show you how I've done this in my own videos, some real marketing data of some videos that have sold hundreds of thousands of dollars that I have, and we can look at some stats and my Vitalytics software of how you can see this. So let's do it.
Let's do it.
All right, cool. So let me close this and see what I got going on over here. Cool. So Chris already touched on this. This is Vitalytics, and this is just like a video hosting thing like Vimeo, YouTube, or Wistia. It's for people that have videos on their website and they want to sell with them, right? So I was, you know, you already know my story. I was a multi-million-dollar video marketer. Video is always my weapon of choice when I try to sell something. And really, over the years, you know, I've had some big successes, but when something didn't work, I was really frustrated and I didn't know how to fix it. So out of that frustration, I decided to go and build my own system, the one that I wanted to help me sell even more. And this is after I was like already doing millions, but I was like, this is what could have me go to the next level. And if you're brand new in selling online and with videos, you need this more than anybody, because no offense, but you're clueless unless you're a born natural and they're out there. But if you're clueless and you don't know what's working, then you need to know if you're on track or not. So I'm going to talk about these 10 commandments of teaching and selling with videos in the context of my own businesses, not just Vitalytics, but one of my supplement companies, and how this works. So one of the number one things, let's see. Cool. So one of the number one things that you need to do when they get to your video is get them to actually watch it. So that people are like, oh, well, they're at the video and they're going to click it. What else are they going to do on the page if there's nothing there? But wrong. Click rates on those things can be at best 40, 50, 60%. And on mobile, it's worse than anything. So a lot of people use autoplay. I'm a huge fan of it. But until now, you really couldn't do this on mobile phones. So this is one of the first things we built. And this is, so this is actually a mobile phone here. Go into a video and you can see that it's auto playing on mobile. It has this overlay that says your video is playing, tap for sound. And can you hear the sound?
Yeah.
Yeah, you can. Cool. So this is something that's like brand new. It really doesn't exist, especially in this way and this ease that's really geared for marketers. And it's one thing to show it right here. That's on like a camera, showing a mobile phone that's auto playing like that. But when you do this for your courses, or especially if you want to simulate something live, or just give that scarcity of like, hey, you need to watch this now. This is a dramatic boost to mobile phones. I mean, upwards of 70% of traffic is mobile. So this is one of the number one ways that you can get them to start watching your video, right? Now, Vitalytics, as Chris already said, is a lot of stats and stuff where you can see kind of what's happening inside of your videos. So here's the thing. With your videos, in the very beginning, the first 5-10 seconds is the most important, right? And the first 5 seconds are more important than the first 10, and the first 10 are more important than the first 20, and so on. There's no point that you can really coast and say like, oh, they're sucked in and I can just, go off course here or something like that. So this is inside of Vitalytics, and this is actually one of my videos in my supplement company that's been running for a while here, selling. And you can see how it's doing here of grabbing people at the beginning. And this is something where, and we can get into this more, but this is a video that failed, right? So this is for another supplement. And you can see how many people just dropped off. Like 80% of them dropped off in the first 2 minutes or something like this, right? And that's what these numbers say right here on the screen. So this is what failure looks like. And this is what success looks like as far as grabbing their attention. So, what I like to do in the beginning of a video is hit them smack dab in between the eyes with their biggest pain points. And that's when you talk to their needs, you talk to their emotions, you talk to the thing that's keeping them up in the middle of the night. You grab their attention about solving that, and you introduce like the big idea of your video, whether it's something like, hey, this is how to learn Spanish with your natural Spanish brain. This is something else we talked about on the podcast, I think. Yeah, where Chris can only roll his R's when he's drunk. Is that right?
That's right. Yeah.
And that's a really good example of something that's like a unique mechanism or like a big idea, right? So it's like, I struggled for years. If this is true and this is your story, or it's one of your clients' stories, or your students offline or whatever, however you can get this into your video. But like a great idea there would be, hey, I struggled to learn Spanish for years and years. I took Spanish in high school. I did courses. I did Rosetta Stone, one-on-one tutoring. I lived in foreign countries and I still don't speak Spanish. By the way, that's my story today. I'm total gringo. But, but then I realized one night when I was drunk, I was able to roll my R's, and that actually, like, I was able to bypass my conscious mind, tap into my subconscious mind that had tucked away all that Spanish over those years, and be able to tap into my natural Spanish brain. And I was fluent within 60 days. And, anyways, so that would be like an interesting lead where somebody that's struggling to learn Spanish or wants to learn it in record time would be like, hey, now, what happened? That's a huge curiosity thing. That's a huge attention grab, and it's unique, right? So that's something that you can do at the beginning of the video to grab their attention. And you'll know if you're on the right track, if you're using something like this, like Wistia, that shows you how well they're engaging with the beginning of your video. Because say you're selling down here and they don't even know that you have a course or how much it costs until like minute 10 or 15 or 20, and they bail in the first like minute, but then they never saw your sales message. You never gave them a chance to buy, right? So you totally failed. And what a lot of people make a mistake of is when they have a video that fails, when they don't have these stats, then they go, oh, well, I'm just going to reshoot the whole video, right? And I mean, that can take months unless you're really good at executing on creating videos. So, but if they're just bailing in the first 2 minutes, that's the only part that you need to fix. You don't even know if the rest works because they never saw it. You may be able to just fix that first part, and the lead, the first 2 minutes right there is what I call the lead. And that's where you're introducing yourself, the big idea, what you're going to be talking about, how you're going to be addressing their problems. Like that's the first part that I would change, right? Swap it out. And then after that, you can go into story, right? So I have another framework in addition to the 10 commandments. I have a couple that I use kind of simultaneously. And this is actually some stuff that if guys stay till the end and they want to write in or something like that, we could get them this material as well, of like another type of framework that they could layer on top of like these tricks and hacks that we're going over right now.
That's awesome. And I just want to add one thing I often do when I'm kicking off a video. I'll say something like, in this video, you're going to learn whatever. So if you just need a prompt, or in this video, you're going to discover whatever. Or in this video, I'm going to tell you about the time that so it's just like a way to start a video to like give that people that gut check of, because they're wondering, everybody's got 1,000 things coming at them, and like, is it worth me investing my 5 minutes, 10 minutes, an hour in this video? And the longer it is, the more you got to make a compelling claim,
Yeah. You know what's funny? All right. So now it's funny because you're kind of touching on one of the third frameworks that I use, and I use these three frameworks together. And I call this one the objection annihilator. And it's like, we have so much information coming at us that we're like, we got to like thin it off and slice through. Like we have a machete and we're going through the jungle, right? And we're just like, get away from me info, because we can't process that much. So like so what humans do, what our reptile brain does at the base of our like spine is it's a screener, right? And it doesn't even go up to the mammal brain or the human brain for emotion and conscious processing. So what people are doing is they're looking for an excuse to immediately bail out on this because they probably weren't planning on watching your video. So you're interrupting their day, right? And they're like, I got work, I got kids, I got a job, blah, blah, blah. And like, they're like, do I even want to watch this? Is this important? Should I do this now? And they're like, oh, I don't want to learn Spanish. I want to learn French, right? Or like, or I already tried this, right? So they're looking for objections. So it's like, who are you? What are you doing? What is this about? Why should I listen to you? Like, I've already tried this. How is this any different? How much does this cost? What if I lose my money? How do I know it really works? Has this worked for anybody else? Anyways, those are the objections, and that's the order they feel it in. So that's how you want to order your video, right? So that's a quick and dirty of the objection annihilator. But it is, you're just like, because you don't start like, hey guys, I got a course for $19, or like, I got the new mega pack course on Spanish. Nobody cares. Nobody cares that you got a course mega pack on Spanish. They care that they're going to Argentina in 2 months. It's been booked for a year. They thought they were going to learn Spanish. They put it off. They tried some things, nothing stuck. And now they're stressed out. They're going to go down there and they're worried that they're not going to be able to get out of the airport because they can't catch a cab. So anyways.
That's good. I like that. The objection annihilator. It's a good way to like structure a video or like, hey, this is why you should listen to me.
Yeah. So, all right. So this is how you can tell if your lead's on point, right? So, and this is like audience engagement inside Vitalytics. But the next thing you need to do is like, so what if they watch your video? Because you could create a really entertaining video, right? And maybe they'd never take action, right? We do this all the time. It's called TV, right? We just sit there and watch TV. We skip the commercials and then it's done. And we're like, all right, I got to go back to my real life and actually do some work, right? So what, like, you want them to watch it, but you most importantly want them to take action. And this is one of the biggest things that I wanted in my own video stats is the conversion tracking here. And this is where you can actually see, so this is conversion tracking. You put a pixel, a script on your receipt page, or for you course creators out there, you want to know why people aren't getting through your course, you can put video one's script on video two, video two's on three, and you can see if they're making it through, right? And like, there's all this cool stuff that you can do there to find out like where people are dropping off, right? Beyond just like the metadata, because if it's just like your stats of like, oh, this one has 500 plays and this one has 450, like, you know, did they watch it twice or did they go on? Did they skip this one? Did they not like the title and stuff like that? But, you know, until you really know what they're doing next, then you're shooting in the dark. So this shows in this video, this is a sales video for a supplement, sold hundreds of thousands. And it's running today, right? This is probably yesterday it made over $1,000. That's gross revenue with a really good margin because it doesn't have a ton of traffic, but this is like running now. And this is like the lead. And then we go into the story, right, of how it's a health supplement and how that was developed and all this stuff. And then it's like, all right, well, you can't work with Dr. Edwards and you can't go through this crazy journey and process that I did, and you wouldn't want to anyways. So what I've done is I've been able to like put this into a product for you. And it does all of these things that, you know, we just talked about. And that's like emotional transference, right? Where you're talking about your story, and you as course creators, you could talk about a student, be like, you know, I worked with Geraldo for like, you know, like 7 months and he became the best Spanish, you know, student that I've ever had in my entire life. And it's because that one night when I got drunk. Now you can't come and work with me one-on-one because I'm booked up and I don't take one-on-one clients anymore. I don't do personal teaching. What I've done is step back so that I've created a platform so that I can touch even more people's lives to give them the joy of learning Spanish. And I put it into this course, emotional transference. You're transferring the emotion from Geraldo and that story, although Geraldo sounds like he should speak Spanish already, but, and then you put it into the course, right? So it's harder with something like a supplement, right? But with a course, it's very, very, very tangible because you went through a process to learn this. Maybe you've taught it to other people, and now it's time that you've packaged this. And this, so right here, right, you can see this drop off here, and that's why I keep hovering over this. This is the point where we're like doing the emotional transference, introducing the product, and like talking about what's in the product. And at this point, people are saying like they're dropping off, right? And you're like, that's to be expected, right? Because it's like, oh, now the cat's out of the bag. They know it's a supplement. Maybe they have all those objections like, hey, what is this really about? Or, oh, I've already tried supplements. They don't work for me. And they're leaving. And until now, literally right now, there's no other software in the world that will show you this, is you didn't know if this was good or bad. Because like something that other people don't talk about is that you don't want people to live the rest of their life on your video. You want your video to get them into your course. So you want the first video to get them to the second video, and the second video to get them to the third, so on and so forth, to the very end, and then you have an upsell. Or you've just created a raving fan, somebody that really believes in your process and your teaching and all that. So when do you know when drop off is a good thing or a bad thing? Well, until now you don't, but now you can, because now you can see that at the same time that these people are dropping off, magically they're going to buy, right? This is when the buy button is dropping, unless they refresh the page. That's why we have a bunch of conversions before that. And this is where they're going off to buy in droves. So this is like the inflection point. And all right, I don't want to get like too much ahead of myself, but all right. So here's something else where if you want to know what's working, in Vitalytics, you can actually segment your stuff and see like, all right, well, that's good that there's people watching to that point and then some people are buying, but who's doing what? This is called a segment where you can actually see who's buying and who's not. So what I've done is turn on buyers and non-buyers, and this could just be converters, right? They went to the second video, right? And you want to see how much of the first video they watched before they did that. And maybe at the end you have all this like post roll where it's like, hey, go to my Facebook group, go to my blog, go to my podcast, or do all this stuff. And they can tell to wrap up, right? And they're like, okay, got it. You know, and they're dropping off, but maybe you teach after that, or there's something important. Maybe you can put it in the very middle or at the very beginning. These are the types of insights that you can see that, okay, nobody's watching this, Or maybe if instead of putting in the video, if everybody like watches to this point and I start talking about like my social media and they drop off, maybe I just need to have that underneath the video and they'll see it and instantly do it. And you could even have a call to action. But these are the types of insights that you can see when you start knowing who's buying and who's not. So this is the audience engagement of just people who bought, okay? Before, we had just the audience engagement of everybody, buyers and non-buyers on this screen, okay? But then you can segment this and drill down and actually see how these people are doing it, right? So I just showed you just buyers. Let's show you just non-buyers. So these are the people that didn't buy, and you can see that, yeah, a lot of the people went to go buy at that emotional transference inflection point, but a lot of them left because they're like, oh, it's a supplement, right? So maybe that's heavy-handed, and this could be like the biggest drop-off here where we're losing like, 10, 15, 20% of the people just right away. Besides the lead, this is probably the second most important thing that we see in this video, right? So all right, so in case you're keeping track, this is commandment number 4, know what's working. And I want to show you a couple other things because this one's really cool for courses. This is the segments of first-time watchers and second-time watchers, okay? So right now on the audience engagement, you can actually see that returning visitors drop off much faster, but then they stay like much longer, if that makes sense. Because here it's below average, here it's above average or above the other line, right? The blue line, if you can see that. And so that's like, okay, that's interesting. But like, what about their conversions? Okay, well, this tells a very different story. And the blue line down here is super low. So like, what's going on here? And you can see that these people that buy in this video, most of them aren't really staying, right? Most of them are doing it right here. About a third are doing it immediately, and then they're doing it somewhat here, but it's much less. And for a returning visitor, like just knowing what retargeting traffic should be like, and you guys can probably see it. I can't because I got a little Zoom thing here. But all right, so here's your conversion rate down here in this table. So remarketing should be 2-3 times your regular conversion rate. And this right here on returning visitors is below 1%. And on the original people, it's 3.7%. So it's a big difference, right? So why are these people that already saw the video, that came back to watch it more than once, know what it's about, are not buying, right? And this is something where you can say, all right, this video is not working for repeat visitors. This is more of a front-end sales thing that I'm talking about here, where you can say, hey, they're not really watching this, or they're not buying after this. Why not? Maybe I just need to send them to the order form and they're coming back to watch the video because they're in action, right? They're like nervous or something like that. And you can see this, okay, well, what are people watching? If they've already seen this video, this course, this title, what's the most popular video I have? And how's it broken up between first-time watchers and second-time watchers? And maybe that's a lesson that you need to deep dive, or it's one that was confusing. These are clues, right? And it sends you down the path of hardening your course and making it a monster, right? Because it's a lot easier to get somebody to stay in your stable than it is to get them into your stable as far as the front end. So is this good? Is this useful? What do you think, Chris? Are there any questions coming in?
Super useful. We're not getting a lot of questions yet. So
okay.
Keep charging. I'm super excited though to see that point, like looking at the engagement and being like, oh, I lost traffic there. But you know what? That's actually because people were going to go buy my stuff. So if I didn't have it mapped correctly, I might have like changed something I shouldn't have.
Right. And here's the thing. Okay. Like we're entrepreneurs. Like we spend money and we got to make money back with that. We don't well, I have shareholders, but like that's a different story. But we don't have like investors and people that are like, like kind of like funding us. Or we don't have like retail distribution or like something like that to sustain our marketing. And a lot of the big video companies and a lot of the people online, they only talk about engagement because it's the only metric they have. Right. And they're like, oh, well, your video needs to be engaging. Oh, it needs to be only 2 minutes long because otherwise people won't engage with it. That's not true. If you're talking to their pain, they have erectile dysfunction and they don't want to go on drugs. You think they're going to listen? Yeah. Unless they think you're full of it, but then that comes into the proof elements and telling the story and something compelling and something unique that they haven't tried. So
yeah, I think the beauty with these analytics is there's so many blanket statements out there about, oh, you should do this. Like you said, the 2-minute video. But
yeah.
If it's like on my pain point with like laser precision, I'll stay for 2 hours. I'll stay for 5 hours.
I'd clear a Saturday and do like an all-day binge. Right. I mean, but yeah, and like with a course too. This is really important because I've been in courses that are like micro courses, and it's like, all right, we got a minute. All right, we're gonna teach you this. All right, it's one idea. All right, now go. Right, and I'm like, okay. And like what I do with the course is I might download it, transfer it to audio, and load it up on my phone. But like. Yeah. it's like, okay, well, like which one should I do? Should I do the micro courses? Do people want this in burst? Are they going to remember it better? Like, you know, like you don't really know these things, and there's a lot of assumptions out there. So that's, this gives you context to this. So another one too is device. And then we can move on from the segments, but all these segments are ways to slice and dice your data so you can see how it's working. So in this video, we mostly buy desktop traffic. So the mobile's pretty thin here, but let's just turn off some of these other ones so you can see what's happening. All right, so mobile has no conversions. And just real fast, so tablet here, just in this table, you don't even need to see the data. There's only one conversion, right? It's 0.23, right? So we're just losing money on these 500 people that came. But on mobile, there's no conversions and almost all of them are dropping immediately, right? So it's like, all right, what can I do to get these people like better engaged with this? And this is something where maybe you're sending them into your course, maybe you're sending them into a training, and it's like, well, maybe I'm sending it on like a night and they're on their phone, and that's not right. Maybe I should send it at like 3 p.m. during that slump in the afternoon when they're at work and they're like tired and they want a distraction and they can watch it on a desktop, right? So, I mean, these are just the things that like you're never going to know unless you're really engaging with this. And with the course consumption, it's very different, because how many of us sit on the couch, watch TV and look at their phone? I do it all the time. I'm like Googling the actors in the show and going to Wikipedia and like doing math and stuff in my head because I like numbers. So, but it's like, all right, so what are people doing on their phone and not? So anyways, that's a way that you can tell this stuff. So, all right, cool. All right, so the next commandment here is don't confuse them. All right, so don't confuse them. So this is actually the video. So hold on here. So this video on the homepage of Vitalytics, you can go and watch it right now. These are the stats for it, right? So this is how people are engaging with this video, right? And it's been up, is it May? Okay, yeah, I guess it's been up since May. I thought it was March. And you can see how people are watching it. They're actually like, so they start it and they go, nah, in the first 5 seconds, right? So we probably got to work on this lead. We haven't really optimized this, but then they're dropping off. But what's really interesting here is another thing you can do here is right up here at the top, this green line, and it has different shadings. I'm not sure if you can see that, but these are rewinds, right? So if you're confusing people, they're going to watch it again, unless it was really, really, really interesting, right? So it's kind of a double-edged sword. You got to figure out, was this confusing or engaging, right? Do they want more of this? Was this too technical? And they're like, whoa, 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 whoa. Or, but this is something where in the beginning, they're like, wait a minute, what's going on here, right? And then as it comes out like right here, and you can click this, and it starts playing the video for you so you can actually see what's happening here. All right, and this is actually where we're talking about our embed script, which is kind of a technical topic. And people are like, wait, how does this thing work? So actually, that's a really good lesson, like for us, that I literally just discovered. I didn't plan this, but I just saw that in here, that you could just go and see, all right, what are people rewinding on? And just click this. And with the embed script, I bet it's confusing for people. So like, wait, what? That's my theory. So this is how you don't confuse them, right? All right, and then another one though is don't, oops, hold on here. Hold on here. So don't bore them. All right. Hopefully this isn't boring as I fumble around my notes. But don't confuse them and don't bore them. And trust me, it's a lot worse to be boring than it is to be confusing. I mean, both are bad, because I had a copy coach. I paid thousands of dollars just for an hour of this guy's time to talk to me. We did coaching for an ongoing basis to talk about video. And one thing he would always harp on, his name is David Garfinkel, by the way, is the confused mind does not buy, right? The bored mind does not buy. And if you think about Trump, right? And I don't want to get political, but on his campaign, he gave really simple sound bites, right? So he wasn't getting confusing, and it was something emotional that people could latch onto, right? And he wasn't boring them. You know, he was like, hey, China's taking our jobs. Hey, I don't know, Hillary's a crook, or like whatever it was, right? And again, I don't want to get political, and I respect everybody's political beliefs, but it was very, very simple, right? And it was stuff that people could resonate with, and it wasn't boring, right? And that's one thing that Trump's really good at, is he's not boring, right? He's a showman, right? So right here, the opposite of rewinds are skips. And this is a video that I showed earlier that totally failed. This is something that we went and produced, cost us thousands of dollars, and we put up the video and it just bombed, and we had to call it a day. And this part right here at the top, I have a plugin here for my browser that that's kind of in the way here. But at the very, very beginning, people are skipping this. And that's really bad. If right out of the gates, they're like, wait, what is this? I don't want to hear this stupid story or whatever it is. And they're immediately skipping. And you can see that the skips kind of go throughout much of this. But in the beginning, there's like 18. And back here, there's only 1. And that's in this little mouse over, I'm pointing, like you can see where I'm pointing. And that's in this little mouse over thing where you can actually see the numbers right there of the actual value of how many people skipped right here. And this is really important. If you got a course, right, and maybe you told your story in your VSL or your video that sold them into the course, and then your first video is all about your story or something like that, or it's talking about your other products or your social media, people are like, I don't care. I want to get to the course, or I want to get to the meat and potatoes. And here's another thing that some of these insights would shed on. How does having one course at a time fed to you affect the completion rates, right? Do you want to open like non-linear thing where people can just go click around and skip forward and stuff like that? And you can do the same thing with removing controls and seeing how people are like watching this. So, all right, cool. Uno más, or not uno más. I speak a little bit of Spanish. So, all right, so this video failed, right? So then we were like, all right, the lead sucks. We got to pack it up and we got to change it. And what you can do here in Vitalytics is pull up another videos graph. And you go, and you mouse over one and you see how it compares to the other. And you see that this one over here has 0 skips. This one over here, and they're very similar, right? I mean, they're almost the same length. They have much of the same contents, but just the lead was changed here. And you can see how much more it got people in. And when you notice here, like by say like 2 or 3 minutes, the drop-off rate is kind of the same, right? This, like I'm talking about how fast this engagement line drops off, but you wouldn't really know that unless you had these side by side. So this is where, and this is a pretty clear indication where you go, okay, the one on the left sucks, the one on the right's pretty awesome, right? And the one on the right's profitable, by the way, and the one on the left wasn't. And I'm talking paid traffic, not like organic traffic or affiliate traffic, but this is actually like we're buying traffic and turning it into paying customers, right? Which is a whole nother topic. But and so now you can see which one compares. And if you can do this with absolutely anything, your course videos, your sales videos, and find out what's going to work for them. So these other insights that we're talking about, you get into these and you say, all right, well, let's try something. So what else is there? And then you can try something and actually find out how it works. So this is number 7, how to always be testing, right? All right. How we doing, Chris?
Great. Doing fantastic.
Cool.
What I just wanted to ask just a little more detail on
anything.
Being boring and confusing. Like what are some more examples of that, or what are some causes of that?
Yeah, I think boring is talking about the details you care about that maybe they don't, right? I do this a lot because I'm a nerd. Yeah. And people are like, how's this going to make me money, dude? And I'm like, well, hold on. Like, let's talk about some numbers, you know? But it's like, so like, and that could be something that's both boring and confusing. And typically the confusing things are boring, and the boring things can be confusing because they don't listen, and then they come back to reality in the middle of your sentence about, you know, quantum mechanics, and they're like, oh, now I'm confused. But I would say so here's the thing, right? And this is in one of my other frameworks, and we can talk about getting this to your people if they want it. But it's like grab their attention, sell the sizzle, right? So it's like grab their attention, talk to their pain, sell the sizzle, say about how this is unique, how this is going to change their life, and then roll into a story. We are hardwired for stories, right? Dan Kennedy, who I already quoted in this training, he also says, like, so he's a public speaker, and he's like, if I start losing the audience, I'll start telling a story and they engage right back, right? So stories are typically engaging unless they're like disjointed or something like that, right? So that's something that can be like boring on one hand. And then confusing would be maybe like details, or this can be a case if you're trying to connect, like, I know in the info publishing space, like course space in the dating niche where I know a lot of people, I've never been in it, never a consumer of those products. But they have to take a psychological concept that they discovered somehow, like in their everyday life or with clients or something like that, and then transfer it, right? And typically you need one big idea. Okay. So one big idea, like learn Spanish with your natural Spanish mind. And the story is that I discovered this after a lot of failure when I was drunk, right? And I could roll my R's. So then I started drinking in my Spanish lessons, but I didn't want to be drunk all the time, right? So I went to the Himalayas or whatever to study with monks, and they taught me Spanish, even though they didn't know it. That'd be a pretty good story if it was true. So like, but yeah, so like stories would help there. Does that help? Anything else?
Yeah. That's super cool. What about could you mentioned a little bit about the paid traffic coming?
Oh yeah.
Versus like organic sales page video.
Yeah.
In my opinion, and you know, let's have a little conversation around it. How does it like, doesn't all this stuff become even more important with paid traffic because
yes.
it's they don't know you yet. It's cold. It's like, you better not be boring. You better,
Oh yeah.
have a good opener. Don't confuse people, because
Yeah.
if you're paying for that traffic, you likely have even less time to,
Yeah.
make a compelling story.
Right. And I have people all the time that are like, oh, I get this conversion rate. And I'm like, and I can tell what kind of traffic they have, because it's like, that's not happening with paid traffic. It's typically can be very thin margins. I know people that go negative on their paid traffic. So yeah, paid traffic, it's like New York City. If you can make it with paid traffic, then you can make it anywhere. Right.
Yeah.
And you can do it with organic. And here's the big advantage. So there's probably like 2 or 3 really big advantages of paid traffic. And I love it. I've spent $1 million my own money on paid traffic, right? To fuel my businesses. If I have the option to buy traffic, I want to do it. Always. Excuse me. So one of the big advantages is that it's immediate. All right. And you can turn it on overnight. You can scale to $1,000 a day, like really fast on Facebook or AdWords. And so you can ramp up really fast, right? With some of these other things, even affiliate relationships, you got to build those relationships and kind of get on their schedule and get through that. And that can be a lot at once, but it can also be like, say, a mailing. So it's a lot at once and then it just dies, right? And then you're like, okay, well, right. So, but with traffic too, it's continuous, right? So you can run this, and we've literally done this. I mean, this is how I run my business, is that I will buy traffic for something like this, which that's what happened here. And it bombs, and I go, oh crap. And I turn off the button, right? I switch it off, and I go, okay. And then we look at these stats and say, okay, what's working? What's not? What can we try? All right. And then we redo the video, and then we launch it. And if it was getting conversions, and we think it has a shot, we'll test against it. But if it's a total bomb, we'll just launch the new one, because, the only reason you don't want to do that is if you want to control for variables, like, because maybe something else is different besides just the video with your paid traffic. And if you're targeting on something like AdWords, especially on display network, this is an ecosystem. This is the other side of AdSense. If any of you have used that, this is where you target like contextually or some other targeting method across a bunch of different websites. And maybe one week you get a bunch from WebMD, and the next week you get a bunch from like these shady, like spam, like link farms, or something like that. So that's one thing, but that's what we'll do. We'll just like throw the traffic at it and then see how it does, turn it off, like tweak the video, try it again. And like, here's another thing too. Say you're not going to use a video on your sales page, and you're just going to have literally a sales page. And maybe you're using something like Mouseflow or Hotjar.
Crazy Egg.
Yeah, or one of the billion things out there. Yeah. You can't really those things are mildly interesting, but they're not actionable because it's not linear, right? So like people are scrolling around, all right, but this is blue and this is purple and this is red and this is orange. What do I do? Right? Yeah. With this, you can say, hey, they watched to minute 2 and they stopped, and I know exactly what was said at minute 2. I took off the controls. I autoplayed the video. You can even disable pausing in Vitalytics. So they have no choice but to like swallow your message in the fashion you do it. And that's a really important reason why you can't be boring. Because on a sales page, they say, oh, I don't care about your story. I don't care who you are. I care about the price, right? And that's the downside of it being nonlinear. They'll just, if you have a page, and I do it, I'm sure everybody does it. You hit a page, you go, what is this? How much does it cost? That's your first question. You want to, because that's the easiest disqualifier. For $500, I'm not spending that to learn Spanish, which is crazy, right? And this is an apples and oranges technique, which is crazy because you go and do lessons and it's like $500 a month reoccurring, right?
Right.
And if you do it in a classroom, then you like have other like people that are asking like stupid questions that you already know, or they're asking confusing questions because you don't know them and you're like the idiot. But yeah, so it's like that's a technique to like contrast value is apples and oranges. It's compared to like an analog, but like not like a course to course, right? You don't want to go and find like your closest competitor that's like neck and neck with you.
That makes sense. Well, one more side question on paid traffic. If I have like a online course website, let's say I have multiple courses, course catalog, I go to a course, it has like its own sales page that, people organically show up at on my website. Should I have a different video on that sales page than my paid traffic to a video sales letter?
Yes.
Yes.
You're talking about like your list email traffic to paid traffic?
Yeah. Should the sales video be different?
Yeah. Now listen, like we do the same, right? I own like a couple companies and like some of them get neglected. So we just run the same video for everything, and it can work. If it's a really good video, it can just work. And people will go, yeah, I got this, or I know this, or, oh yeah, that's great. And people, even if they know your story, they like hearing it again. Yeah. I mean, unless it's really boring or it's just too much or something like that. Right. But so you could do the same video, but a big opportunity that you're missing out on, especially with the list traffic, is that you have a relationship with them. They know who you are. It's Chris from Lifter LMS. Hey, like I was in my Facebook group last week and I got into an interesting conversation. I decided to create this video for you. And people were like, oh, wow, I'm in the Facebook group. I didn't see the conversation. Yeah. Right now, if you do that with paid traffic, people are going to go, I don't give a shit that you're Chris from Lifter LMS. Like, but right. In your Facebook group, maybe you can breeze over it, but like, so it's a different approach, right? Okay. They're like, what's this have to do with me? Right. And we're very selfish people. This is why we out-survived the Neanderthals. Right. Well. Yeah. But this is what kept us alive. Hopefully in our day-to-day life, in our conscious life, we're not selfish. But when we have that reptile brain, like slashing through all the information, it is being selfish. It's like, hey, I only have so much time. I got other stuff to do, blah, 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 blah. So that's kind of what I would do there. And that, though, what I'm talking about is just the intro. This could be like first 20 seconds. Yeah. Just how you intro it.
I think that's a really important point. So if you're doing paid traffic or cold traffic that doesn't know you from Adam, you have to appeal to the self-interest of the visitor. I mean, that's like, even if they're nice people who have empathy and care about people, it's all about, it's still that reptilian brain or primal brain, what's in it for me, kind of thinking, and answer those questions.
Yeah, and it's a subjective thing, right? Like, so I have a really good friend, Jeff Salzenstein. I can never say his name, even though I've known him for like 7 years. And he's a Denver marketer, and he's a former top 100 tennis player in the world, right? And he teaches tennis online. So he has got the goods. He was NCAA champion at Stanford, Fulbright scholarship, and the first American break the top 100 tennis players in the world past the age of 30. He's got stories about playing Andre Agassi, or that guy, at Wimbledon, right? He's like, when I was at Wimbledon, like I'm doing lunch. He's like, when I was at Wimbledon, and I'm like, wow, right? So he's got that like local star power, right? Which talks about in the book Pitch Anything, which is interesting concepts, but not so much for video. It's more for offline, like pitching for like money or something like that, or a job. But like that local star power. So if you have a lot of credibility like that, and like me, I've sold millions of dollars. I've been online. This is how I make my money. I create videos and I buy traffic, and it has to, make more money than it spends. Right. So I have some credibility here, but you don't really know that until I tell you my story. That's why I tell you my story, because it's engaging. And you're like, okay, well, who is this guy? It's not like, oh, I got this Vitalytics software. People are like, okay. Right. And then it's like, well, okay, these things seem kind of nitty gritty. Do they actually matter? But this is real data where we're making or losing money. Right. So you're like, okay, well, this is how this guy, has a business, makes hundreds of thousands of dollars a year. And really, I spend like 4 hours a month on it. That's like, so Zen Life, a lot of these videos, I don't spend a lot of time on this business at all. It's just kind of like running. If there's a problem, like the traffic got shut off, or like, something kind of like a metric creeps away from me, I'll go and check it. But these videos are just running on autopilot. Like once you get it up and running, you can go and do other things. And this is what I was talking about. Until you get conversions and profits, you should be spending all your time on marketing. Once it gets working, you can go, okay, let's improve my course. Let's work on my second course. Let's, start working on social media and engagement, or another traffic source, something like that. So
that's really good. And that's good. And for those of you listening, this is a unique chance to ask Patrick questions live. So
it is, because I'm not for hire.
So use the Q&A feature in Zoom. I'll also keep an eye on the chat if anything comes through. And I believe we are starting to get some questions, but we'll get to them at the end.
Cool.
I believe you were at around number 7 on the command list.
Yeah. So this is number 8. Stop them from leaving. Right. Okay. So this is something, right? If somebody can stop your video, especially on a sales message, but even if it's on a course video, why would you let them leave? That's a wasted opportunity when they pause your video, if you allow them to do that at all. Right. So this is what I was thinking about. And here's just some random video. This isn't a real like sales video, but what we did here is, this is a custom thumbnail, right? And they don't see this message. This isn't the thumbnail when they started the video. You can see it again. Oh, and actually, okay, yeah.
So if they press pause, they get a custom screen.
Exactly. And you can upload this image here. Let me show you. So this is the video, and this is the thing here. So you could create anything like, hey, don't want to read this, go to my net, or like, don't want to watch this, read this in text. Hey, like you're almost done, or like, like you could do words of encouragement in your course. Like, don't worry, this is as hard as it gets. You're almost done. Keep going. Just finish this lesson before you give up. Right? I mean, like, the possibilities are endless with what you can do there as far as like a message. And
That's
this is
awesome.
something that doesn't exist anywhere else. And it's like a wasted opportunity to not show them that message, right? So
I've
that's
seen
number 8.
I've seen
Yeah.
opt-in software that has something called exit intent where the pop-up comes
Yeah.
when someone tries to leave, but this is like that's
Yeah.
super cool. It's like an opportunity to re-engage,
Mm-hmm.
or like, are you sure you want to go? Like, because that's the
Yeah.
whole thing. Online education is so anonymous that
Yeah.
I always tell the story, which I think is kind of funny, that in a real classroom or workshop in person,
Mm-hmm.
people don't just stand up while somebody's talking and like walk out of the room unless
Right.
they really need to go for some reason or whatever.
Yeah.
But
Right.
online, that's the norm.
Yeah.
So
And you're
so
absolutely right.
why not put a little like, alert
Jazz.
message up? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great point about how impersonable the internet is and stuff. And this is one reason to tell your story and make yourself a real human. So not like, oh, this is XYZ Corp, but no, this is Chris and Patrick on a training, on a Thursday morning for me that I had to set my alarm to wake up for. So
Well, thank you for getting up early.
yeah, thanks. Yeah, I'm a bit of an eye out. So, all right. So here's another thing. So this is something to get them to take action, right? So here's the video. Let it play, and it's going, and then bam! Watch the next lesson now. This is a call to action button that you just overlay with your video, and you could send it to the next thing, or you can send it to an offer. Like, hey, like say you have a video that's really popular, and like with the analytics that we were talking about earlier, you go, this is really important. Like this is my most watched video. They rewind it. They really like it. I lost the button. Hold on here. So I'm going to make a course about it. I'm going to make a mini course. My regular course is $100. I'm going to make this just for like $17 or something, and it's just going to be like a 3-hour intensive on this one topic. Like, right, like from this call, it could be like, well, maybe we're going to talk about paid traffic next time since we kind of went down that rabbit hole. Anyways, this could be an offer to that other course or something like that. You click it, bam, they're at lesson 2. And this is, it can be another video or whatever you want here. And this link here, this is a call to action button. Oh wait, no, it's here. So this is what it is. And you can come in here and put any link that you want to have it come in here. And this is what it says. And this is the link that it goes to. And then it can open in a new window or whatever you want there. But here's the thing. If you have people that are having a hard time going through your courses, what does Netflix do? Hey, start the next video. It auto starts in 10 seconds, And they're like, hey, unless like you're using too much of their bandwidth and they're worried about your safety. And they're like, are you okay? Are you still watching this? But most of the time they're like, hey, just start the next video, because Netflix, and this is true, this a huge metric that Netflix cares about is how much people watch their stuff. And that's why they want you to watch all their catalog. They already got the $8.99, for the month from you, unless you're sharing an account. But no, like, so like, why do they care if you watch their content? Because the more you watch it, the more valuable they are to you, the more sticky it's going to be for them to you. And like, you're not going to go to HBO online or like Hulu or any of these other things. And that's true of your courses. It's not just like, oh, they completed my course or I got the money and they didn't refund. I know marketers that do that, and that's kind of like a bad way to run a business. It's not a way to like build up something sustainable. And but if they complete your course, right? Once you get enough people coming in the door, like I'd say, maybe 100. What do you think, Chris?
In terms of like course viability for success, you
mean? At a minimum.
Yeah. I mean, it depends how much it costs, but yeah, 100 students.
Oh, that's a good point.
Is a good.
Yeah, right.
Like
5,000. It's like 10.
Yeah.
I've heard this. I have a friend that's an author, and she publishes all kinds of books on Amazon, and she's trying to get to 1,000 raving fans. And that's not that much in the book world, right? There's like tens of millions, hundreds of millions of book readers out there. So she just needs 1,000 people who know who she are, have read her books and think they're good and would like pay attention to the next title. And if she can do this with like books that are being sold for $9.99 or like less, then you should be able to do this with a course. But I would say once you get that first 100 or so, just so you have enough, then you can start optimizing how many people are getting through, right? All right, and then the last thing here. Oh, you know what? I got a bonus. But move fast and don't repeat yourself. So say they come and watch your course, and then they get busy. They don't pay attention to your like exit thumbnail thing here, and then they come back. Well, the last thing you want to do is like repeat yourself. I hate that. Like when I get a voice text and I can't like skim to where I was, I'm just like, do I really want to respond to this guy? Like, does he matter in my life at all that I have to listen to this 20 seconds already listened to? Anyways, you can do this. Oh, and I should have noticed it. But anyway, so here we are at 22 seconds. We refresh the page. This is resume play, and they come back and they're at the same exact spot that they were when they left off, right? So they can just jump back in. So that's a way that you can keep them moving through, right? And you don't repeat yourself and you keep it moving fast. Because the secret of any
time.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Bam. All right, cool. And then there's one more thing I want to show you. So this is, no, that's okay. So this right here was designed. Who's the guy that introduced us?
Brad Griffin.
Brad Griffin. Great guy. He's the one that requested this. And he's like, there's tons of people that have courses. Your software is awesome. All these things that you built for marketing also work for courses. But the one thing I really want to see is domain whitelisting. So this is where this video is running on one of my domains, which is like zennight.com. So let's say we only want this to run on google.com. And it doesn't matter what you type in here. You just need to type in your domain or domains. And now nobody can like steal your course and like copy the embed code and put it on their page or do some affiliate, like, you know, kind of sneakery stuff. And you put this in here and then you come back to this video and bam, license error, and it breaks. Yeah. And this is where you can control. So that's a bonus one where it's just kind of control like what's going on and stuff. So
that's super perfect and useful for course creators because they do care a lot about their intellectual property and, you know, want to.
Oh, and they should. It's the only thing they have.
Want to leverage your, you know, ability to serve video, but also just make sure it's, you know, their IP is protected.
Yeah. So in case you guys can't tell, this is a bit organic, and Chris has actually not seen a lot of this content. We did the podcast, we hit it off. He's a super awesome guy. Like, seems like this amazing, like, you know, international man of mystery with his beard and his long hair. You know, I'm bald, so you don't notice hair until you lose it. But anyways, he's a really good guy. But this is like the first time that he's seen a lot of this. So I created an offer for your people where they can get Vitalytics at a discount that they can't get anywhere else. If you want, we can talk about that, or we can do Q&A. What do you think the people want to do?
Let's go with the offer and then jump into Q&A.
Okay, cool. So let's do this. Okay. All right. So this is where we left off. Let me find my mouse. All right. Let me not. So, all right, cool. Was that awesome? Did you like that? Do you think that would help you? Because you have courses. This is how you got into this space, right?
Absolutely. And I mean, I've spent a lot of time just, you know, as an internet marketer or whatever, you know, software sales and other things, like focusing on like, you know, caring about video engagement for sales. But, you know, once I started looking at your stuff and be like, oh my gosh, this is exactly, it's great for sales, which is super important, but also for engagement, which is, that's part of our core mission at Lifter is we want to make tools that make it possible for people to create courses that people actually finish. And you're providing the exact piece people need with their videos that if they do care and they want to keep optimizing and, you know, strive for 100% completion, they need to have intelligence around those videos and stop making assumptions without looking at the data. So, I mean, I'm so excited. And I love helping course creators and experts, you know, learn how to do better sales, which you just, you know, I hope anybody watching this right now took some notes, goes back and rewatches this, because just some of those key takeaways about how to intro a video and, you know, what to do, what not to do is, you know, that's a gold mine. So thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. And we could maybe do another podcast or maybe put together like some, PDFs, like some kind of like worksheets for those other frameworks that I was talking about. And these three stacked up on top of each other, which one kind of gives you what to say, one tells you the order to put it in, and then one tells you like the do's and don'ts. And like, that's the 10 commandments that we just went over, kind of like the do's and don'ts, right? And all these kind of things that you got to be thinking about with the lead and the emotional transference and the story and these things. But yeah, we could get that to your people. And one thing that I said at the beginning of this is like, okay, your first job is to get people to buy your course, right? And actually, this is how a lot of like big direct response companies work is they go, okay, like what's my sales, my front end conversions, right? The people that buy when they see the video, how many refund, right? And then how many stick, and then what else do they buy, right? And this is kind of like the customer journey within your ecosystem. And it translates into things like average order value, right? Lifetime customer value of your customer. And then they determine how much you can buy traffic for, or if you go to an affiliate. And this is really important. If any of your people aren't doing affiliate marketing, if you go to somebody and you go, hey, mail my stuff, they're going to say, what are your conversion rates or your EPCs, right? And this is how it works on the other side, your earnings per click, right? Or your earnings per like, webinar attendee or something like that. And then they want to know, what are the numbers? They want to know, like, is this viable? So anyways, like that's how a lot of companies do it. But for you people that are doing courses, you got to sell them on the front end, and then you got to sell them on the course. So you got to get them through your course. And that's like your mission. And if they get through the course and they feel good, even if they don't speak Spanish or know how to brew beer at home or whatever you're teaching them, they're still going to feel good about that, and it's like a process. And I think one of the biggest things that people want when they do a course is they want to be working on themselves and growing as a person and working on the skill set. So even if they're not like, say, a marketer, like a master marketer by the end of it, they want to know, hey, I learned something, I'm doing things better, I'm moving in the right direction. So cool. All right. So because everybody on this call is Chris's people, I want to hook you up because he has those luscious locks of long hair. So all right, so I have a special offer for you. You can only get it from Chris. It's called the Lifter LMS Pro Plan. We're going to get into it in a second, but first, I just want to talk about the competition a little bit. Now, YouTube can't do any of this stuff with, right? Vimeo can't do any of this stuff with, and there's other problems over there that we could also talk about of why you don't want to use those platforms in a sales setting or another one. But like one of the big one that we get compared to is Wistia. And this is actually what I used for about 4 years solid. I paid them tens of thousands of dollars during this time because I was running big traffic. And so let's take a look at like what Wistia has, right? So they are known as, and on their website, they say the best video analytics in the world, which you now know is a lie, or you will after you see this slide. So they also have audience engagement, but that's where the similarities end. So they don't have conversion tracking. They don't have skips. They don't have rewinds. They don't have segments. They don't have an adjustable date range. Right? This is when I decided to build Vitalytics. This was like the last straw. I had a video running for years, had 500,000 views, right? So a lot of data. And then I ran some Facebook traffic for it for over the weekend, and it wasn't profitable, but we're like, okay, well, were we on track? Like, can we optimize this, or do we need to just pack up and go home? And I looked at the stats in Wistia, which is only audience engagement, none of this other stuff that we talked about, not mobile autoplay or call to action buttons or, custom pause screens, all this stuff. I almost cussed. And I was like, oh my God, I can't even change the date range on their stats. Like how bad is that? I could at least have changed it to the weekend where I was running Facebook traffic and had a general idea of how that Facebook traffic did alongside my other traffic, but I wasn't able to do that. So I was like, all right, I'm going to go build my own because that's stupid. This has an expandable graph with the stains on the side where can get really big so you can see your metrics. And you can also turn things on and off. You got the compare view where you saw those two videos of Zen Night, a ZN 1.0 and ZN 2.0. Those are Zen Night. And that's something that they definitely don't have. The video dashboard, which I didn't even show you, but this is when you log into your account and you can see how all your videos are performing, the top converters, the top plays, all this stuff. It's like your kind of command center for your video stuff. And then of course, track unlimited conversions, right? So you can obviously see that there's a lot more stuff that Vitalytics has than Wistia.
I just want to throw something in there. I remember when Zoom first came out.
Yeah.
And I've always, as a meeting and a webinar tool or whatever, and I'd always said that, if somebody made something better than GoToWebinar, there'll be a rush over to it. And when I saw what you were doing with Vitalytics, I'm like, oh, wow, this is,
thanks.
This is like next level above Vimeo and Wistia. And it's just, I can see it when it's coming. This is somebody thinking about problems, and, there are some established leaders in the space, but everybody's always up for disruption, and it's all about just serving giving people what they need. So
thanks.
That's what I thought as soon as I was like, oh wow, data-driven video analytics that are easy to use and make sense. I'm like,
that's a good line. I'm going to steal that. So we know the guys at Mouseflow, Trent. He's a great guy. And we showed this to him, and he was like, you guys are in for a wild ride, because we get a request for this 5 times a week. And they're just heat maps and screen recording. And they're really good software. I use them, and there's a couple of reasons why I like them better than the other guys out there, but they're super cool. And what was I going to say? I don't know, maybe it was that. But anyway, so listen, we split tested our software against Wistia's, when we rolled it out, because my biggest fear, and this thing's been in development for I don't know, a year and a half. We launched 6 months ago, and we've been just hardening it since then. We added that feature that Brad requested. And this is where we want to build tools that our users want, right? And like, I'm the CEO, I own this company, right? This isn't a public company like my other one. And even if it was, I'd still be in charge. But like, it's okay. So where do we want to steer this? We want to steer it to be like the most effective tool for people who have videos online. And we set out to be like the one for selling with video, but it's also teaching with video, right? So we want to build these features that people like. So we split tested against Wistia, and this is what we found. We found a 15% increase in conversions. We found a 20% increase in revenue per session. And on this test that I'm about to show you, we made an additional $1,000 just with Vitalytics. And this is what you call an AA test. So it's not AB, it's identical video versus identical video, same settings and everything like that, right? And this is just like our speed difference and like the better user experience to get people into our video. On the left, you have Wistia, right, which made about $5,400, and on the right, you have Vitalytics that made just shy of $6,400. So
if it's AA, what's the difference here?
Okay, so this is really cool. I learned this from Brad Howard on a podcast. I don't know him personally, but he's the guy behind Venus Factor, which was a #1 ClickBank product for I think like 2+ years. Super savvy marketer, and he said an AA test is how you test split testing software, and this is where you take the same version of something, right? So say you're now, like, I don't know if a lot of you are hardcore like this and you would want to go and do a split test, but like I have clients that are like, you know, billion-dollar companies that use Vitalytics, and they're like, okay, what's the first thing we're going to do here is we're going to test Vitalytics versus say Wistia or whatever else they're using to make sure that like it's not going to change anything, because they're like, hey, these features are cool and we can use these, but we got to make sure that it's on par, right? It's on equal footing. So we did an AA test of identical video with the identical settings versus the same exact thing on a different platform. So the only variable was Vitalytics versus Wistia. And these are the results that we got. So this is a screenshot from a proprietary split testing system that we have. And this like isn't public or anything like that, but we just built this. This is how I got started in software a couple of years ago, is building like this kind of tool. And then from there, I was just like, all right, I want to go and do this video platform because it's my biggest pain point. So Wistia is overpriced. So here's the other thing I was going to say, right? So Wistia, like, they just increased their prices, right? You can't get a plan that's less than $99, at least on there, unless it's their free one. And we have a free one, but you're not going to want to use it after I show you what I have in store for you guys. But so they have $99. You can't go lower than that. They pushed out all the small guys, and they're building tools for support desks, right? Fortune 500s, right? They've dominated small businesses and all these other like kind of like business videos. And now they want to go into another use case, which is support videos, right? So if you think that like they're going to take care of you and make tools that can help you like increase your course completions and stuff like that, I wouldn't bet on it, because you can see what they're thinking and what they value by what they're putting out there and what they're putting their resources towards, which is like support and basically going and trying to be the biggest, baddest company, you know, in a different area. But we really want to like, you know, serve the entrepreneur, because entrepreneurship has literally been the greatest journey of my life. All right, so here's the special plan. These were supposed to come in all at once, so, or not all at once. So here's the special Lifter LMS Pro plan, right? So here's another thing, like with Wistia and even Vimeo and some of these other guys, they bill in bandwidth, right? Now, like, I'm a pretty smart guy and I understand what a gigabyte is, but I have no clue what my bandwidth is. Why would they make it so confusing and abstract? So I didn't want to do that. I wanted really clear pricing that was based on something that you can measurably know, and that's plays, right? So with Vitalytics, you can get 5,000 plays a month. This is our pro plan, by the way. You get 5,000 plays per month. You get 250 videos, storage for free. You can get extra ones if you need it. We're really not worried about that. We just had to put a line in the sand somewhere, and we thought 250 was a lot of videos. You get email and chat support that like never leaves you hanging. You get an unbranded video player. This is a big difference between the free and the unfree one. And of course, the volume of all this stuff you get is like we have a logo on our free one, right? Because you're using it for free. So, and then you can store extra videos for 10 cents each. And if you go up to actually huge numbers, like that's just not even written in stone or anything like that. Like, and if you need extra plays, you can get them for just $10 a month, right? So in my experience, this is equal to about 0.5 terabyte of data per month, okay? Maybe even more, maybe closer to, well, yeah, just like between 0.5 terabyte and like 3/4, I would say. And it's gonna vary on your video size and how many plays you get of the bandwidth, but you don't need to worry about bandwidth, because now you get it in place. So that's
I love how this scales with the entrepreneur. It's like thinking about as they grow, and based on plays, not some arbitrary like CPU something that nobody understands.
Yeah, the CPU on like the 13th month of the year.
It's like unlimited with an asterisk, like none of that. This is just straight up.
Well, here's the thing. That's their biggest price, like throttle, right?
Yeah.
So they're like, oh, well, we want to protect our costs. And I've done the math and I'm like, you know what? I want them to use the plays. And another thing that always ticked me off, you like how I'm like trying not to swear? So the thing that always annoyed me is if I buy a software and it's like, hey, it's $50 for say like 5,000 plays, which is basically what you can do normally with Vitalytics, just if you weren't a part of Chris's tribe. But it's like, 5,000 plays. But then say you need 5,001 plays. Okay. Well, then you got to go and buy 20,000 plays and cost $200. That's not what Vitalytics has. But it's like, why do I got to go and upgrade plans just for that extra, one play or 100 plays or whatever it is? Like there's that kind of like gap in between. So what we did is just broke it down into units of 1,000, so you can just pay an extra $10 and get extra 1,000 plays. And this
which scales with the entrepreneur. It's not arbitrary.
Yeah. And then another thing here, this is about to be released. This is the first time I've talked about it publicly, but we're building a Zapier integration. So this is really, really important for you course creators that are trying to optimize like the people consuming your courses. Because in here now you can say, okay, who's watched video 2? All right, let's send an email to everybody that watched video 2. And then in Vitalytics, you can create a tag that tells them, hey, they watched video 2 via Zapier. And now you send them to video 3. And you can just do this to push them along, right? So then you have personalized marketing that's talking to them about like what they're consuming. And you could even back that into the topics and just be like, hey, do you like video 2? Where I talked about how drunk I was in Uruguay when I like rolled my R's and was able to discover how to speak Spanish with my natural Spanish brain. So anyways.
Well, you've actually done us a big favor at Lifter LMS. We're working on a REST API so that we can do things like a solid Zapier integration. But with this, you can have a Zapier integration with your Lifter LMS site immediately.
Yeah, and that's coming, right? Yeah. Like we're almost done on it. My CTO is working on it. I would say it's going to be done pretty soon. This is a big feature that a lot of people wanted. And we're going to make it only available on the Pro plan, but you guys can get it with the Lifter LMS plan. Oh, and then also say like you don't want to pay for extra things. You can refer friends and get extra video storage and plays. So, all right, and here's a blank slide. All right, and then so the Pro plan is normally $47 a month, but today you can get it for just $19, which is dirt cheap. Okay, so I just wanted to be honest, I just went through an acquisition and in an all stock deal from one of my companies to a public company. I was in New York City last week, as I talked about, and we scheduled this like a month ago. And Kathy was like, all right, let's do it on October 26th. That's today. Yeah. Yeah. All right. And I was like, why are we doing it so far in the future? And then like, I waited until the last minute to prepare. Like I was on the plane flying back from New York working on this. And I was like, all right, what framework are we going to talk about on this? Because I knew that's what I wanted to cover. But so I was like, all right, so what offer is just like a no-brainer, something that's super duper easy, and that's just $19, right? And like that's so cheap that if you can't afford $19, like, well, I don't know. I mean, like seriously, like you probably need this more than you realize, because then it means that you're not making enough to pay for the analytics that are going to help you make more. I don't know, but it's a dirt cheap thing. I had to double check the math and make sure that I'm not losing money on it. It's about break even or worse, but I'm not worried about that because I really just want to get the word out. And I love that Chris had me on his podcast, so wanted to put that out there. So you got that link?
Yeah. It's just at lifterlms.com/Vitalytics. We'll put that in the chat too.
And Vitalytics is VIDALYTICS. It's kind of hard. Right.
Yeah. And that's really generous of you. We really appreciate that.
Yeah, of course.
The pricing there. And I mean, I've used Wistia, Vimeo, both. And I know Wistia recently like did a price increase and it totally like changed a bunch of stuff. And I had to like move stuff around and delete some videos that we didn't use anymore or whatever. And I just love your approach on so many levels. It's like, it's sort of like how at Lifter we like to say course creation software made by course creators for course creators. You're doing this with video. It's like, videos for entrepreneurs made by entrepreneurs that know what it's like to be the startup, to need to sell, to need to make data-driven decisions. And it's not just like, the the tool for displaying video. It's something that I always say the launch of the course or the membership site is not the starting line or not the finish line. It's the starting line. And for the serious players in this space, which there's a lot of them in the Lifter LMS community that are focused on continuous improvement. They need tools like this to, you know, give them the data they need to make informed decisions and make courses better.
That's so cool.
That is awesome.
Cool. So I'm going to blow up my face.
Yeah.
So, all right, here we are. So no, I love that. And like, so what I like to talk about is like some of these other people, like the features that they put in their software, you're like, okay, but this guy's like never had to make money with a video, right? Yeah. Like, you know, but it's like, I was like broke living on credit cards, and like I had to crash on my brother's couch. He was deployed, he's a Marine, and I like crashed on his couch, and I struggled to get my business working, right? I had 50 grand when I started it, and that went away pretty like faster than I thought. And it was like, I had to like put money on the line, and I started freelancing, and that's like when I built my agency and stuff to kind of bridge that gap. But it was like, I had to make my videos perform. And I think this is something I talk about like on Entrepreneur podcast, but I think the hardest thing about being an entrepreneur is riding that emotional roller coaster and and like when like your family and your friends are giving you negative feedback and you don't know what's working or like how to fix it and stuff, and you're in the dark, and you got to be like, okay, do I want to keep doing this? You know? And it's like, so, you know, if someone has not gone through that and they don't know what it's like to be an entrepreneur that didn't come from money, that didn't take venture capital, you know, and had to make their business work maybe part-time while they were like paying the bills elsewhere, you know, then I don't want to use their software unless they magically get it. But a lot of these companies don't. You can tell that they're like tech focused or like Silicon Valley types that like have a very different kind of view of the world. And it's not an invalid view. It's just not my reality of where I came from, you know, of like just struggling to try to make this work. I mean, the best thing I ever did as an entrepreneur is not give up, but hopefully this can shorten your learning curve and all that. So
amazing. That's awesome. Well, let's jump into some questions.
Let's do it. Let's make people come on live and do hot seats.
Yeah. Now is the time to raise your hand. There's a little thing in the Q&A area where you can raise your hand if you want to go live. If you just want to ask a question by text, that's fine too. Use the Q&A feature. I'm going to hit some of the first questions just around the offer, since we just went through that. Is Randy asks, is this charged annually? And I believe you said it's a monthly. That's the Lifter LMS Pro plan, which is standard.
Yeah. Now, Chris, what do you think? I was thinking I'd run this offer. It's Thursday. I was thinking that I'd allow it to run till the end of the weekend. So you don't have to make a decision right away, but we can't have it sitting out there forever. What do you think?
I think that's fair. I mean, for that big of a hookup, that's very fair of you to do it. So
you do have to act now. That's the scarcity, which is in the other framework.
Let's see. Here's just a kind of a use question. Are the videos themselves hosted on Vitalytics, or does this also work for videos on YouTube or elsewhere? And so it does not, but what if somebody is, what do you recommend somebody do if they're somewhere else?
Move.
Yeah.
So we built a bulk uploader, so you can upload as many videos as you want. You just drop them into the web browser, and I think we've tested with like 50 or 100 videos all at once.
Wow.
So it's pretty easy to upload it. But yeah, I mean, that's what I would recommend. And I mean, like obviously YouTube's free, and that seems like it's going to be the best deal, but it's not the best value, especially when you think about how it hurts your sales, how it hurts your course completions, and those types of things. I mean, I've done like whole like talks on like why you should never use YouTube. So yeah. Now, all right. So now I'll talk about that a little bit more though, about the Vitalytics infrastructure. Cause some people are like, well, how does this work? Right. Is it YouTube? Yeah. And that's actually a question I get a lot. So it's a good question, but you upload your video to Vitalytics in the web browser, and we transcode it into about half a dozen different formats and sizes so that it's ready. So it's optimized for each device and internet connection. Right. So that's the first thing we do. And then we store it on our servers, and then we cache it around the world on about 100 different distribution places, so that it can go like super fast and it's always ready to load and stuff like that. And then we have a HTML5 responsive player. And I could get into some of the technicalities of like all the stuff we've done to optimize this, but here's something that I've learned with my own videos is that nothing matters more than speed. So with speed, if somebody, especially paid traffic, if your video doesn't play immediately, then it's going to hurt the conversions. So with this, like we've done everything in our power to make this super lean and mean to increase speed. And this is actually one of the things I was talking about with other companies where they do things that hurt speed and like, oh, it's only 3 seconds. It's like, yeah, that would demolish your conversion rate on paid traffic, right? 1 second demolishes your conversion rate on paid traffic. So, so that's how we built the whole infrastructure. So it's a really complex system. And then of course it has to feed through our system to be able to collect those analytics. People were like, why didn't you just create the analytics for YouTube? And I'm like, well, because we don't have their data. Like we have to be like, we're feeding this from our servers and we have this two-way communication and stuff. So
I just want to also just stress a point I make a lot with when you use video in your WordPress LMS, there is a reason, all this stuff that Patrick is talking about, why you want to embed the video from somewhere like Vitalytics, where smart people like Patrick and his team are making it play fast and all this other stuff going on. When you self-host your videos, you don't want to become a video hosting company. Leave that to Patrick.
Well, right, because yeah. So my very first video was like that, and it was like on AWS, and I had, I think, Flow Player and JW Player. I used them both. I've used all the video players, right? Not just Wistia. But so what happens there is, so here's the other thing I didn't talk about. We have adaptive bitrate streaming, right? So say somebody's watching your video and they're on a phone and like the cell coverage like drops. We'll switch the video midstream to a lower version, like quality size-wise, so that it keeps playing and stuff like that, because buffering is like the worst. A lot of the big guys will do that, but if you're self-hosting, it won't happen. And then you don't even have servers located near to the person. So like I'd say 99% of like video traffic, or even 100%, or like 99.99 would be not self-hosted. Even companies that are like CNN, where you see their videos, they have a very different setup than like, other businesses, because they're doing so much bandwidth. But even that is like probably outsourced and like using special like kind of delivery methods and stuff like that. So, and it's coming from a different network than their website is. So that's pretty technical, but what it means is like, it really matters for the delivery and the optimization for the speed and stuff for a good user experience. So bottom line, we've covered it for you. Don't worry about it.
And this holds true if you're on a $5 a month hosting account, or a $30 a month WP Engine account, or $1,000 a month. Like, I still wouldn't host my own video. I would not.
I have like 10 servers. I wouldn't do it. And I mean, and if you're on a cheap host, and I mean, I was on like HostGator's private server for like $50 a month for years. And that was a pretty good server. I know a lot of people have not had great results with them, but like, even that is just like something you wouldn't want to host. So on that server. Yeah.
We're talking about speed here. And Michael from Poland asks, that he's saying he lives in Poland. Will it still be fast? Your feature on Vitalytics does not load immediately, but like after 2 to 3 seconds, I guess on your website. But that might have to do with his connection or whatever. I don't know. Like, but
yeah, it could be. And you know what's funny actually is we have employees in Poland. So the only Polish I know is Kocham cię, daj mi buzi, which means I love you, give me a kiss. But Michael, so ignore that. But yeah, so what's interesting is we were reported this week that there was actually a degradation in Poland. So I don't know what's going on with that. We can look into it. But it could also be that it wasn't cached in your region because you were the first person to like hit that server in a while since like we last purged our servers. So I don't know about that. That's a technical thing, but like write in and we'll fix it. Because I mean, trust me, like speed is something that we really care about. So like all right, we care about it so much is like when we built our Zapier integration, it's only present in your player's embed code if you use it. So in other words, if you're not using the Zapier integration, then it's not present in your embed code.
Which shows a commitment to speed. Like
so it's like, it's really lean and modular and stuff like that. It's just because like, this is something like my staff is like, dude, you're crazy. But like I've done the split test and stuff like that. So anyways, if there is an issue, write in, but I have no idea exactly what that is as it's technical and I can't see it right now. So we'll totally look into it.
And here's a potentially a feature request that happens all the time when I do it, or maybe I don't know, but can the videos be sped up? Some clients just want to quickly review by fast forwarding. So you know how like in podcasts, you can put it on 1.5 or 3x.
Yeah.
Is that something you hear much?
It's so I heard it for the very first time like a couple days ago, right? and it's something that I do, right? So me and my wife like will watch Netflix on our TV, and I'm like, God, I wish I could speed this up because I like to go fast. But anyways, it's something that we'll be building in the future. I don't have an ETA for it. The best thing to do though is to write into us, and we can do that. The other thing This is actually, I don't know if you guys noticed this, but I was on a video and it had something on top of the skips like bar at the top. And I was like, oh, this is a plugin that's like just on top of this. And that's actually to speed up the video. So like in the meantime, you could also just tell your users to install that. And then
like a browser plugin?
Yeah, it plugs into Chrome and you can use it on like Netflix and YouTube and like all these things. Because I know Netflix doesn't, even on the computer, it doesn't have the option to speed it up. So that's like kind of a short-term solution to that. But yeah, the best thing though, write into us and then we'll log it as a feature and we'll have you written down so we can let you know when it's done.
Super cool. And this happens to me a lot too, is people ask for comparisons to things that to LMSs I may or may not know about. But
yeah, right.
Farouk and Tony are asking about different companies. How does Vitalytics compare to Voo Player or Sprout Video? Do you know of either of those?
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
Voo, I'm trying to think. So Voo Player, I'm not exactly sure which one that is. There's one in the back of my mind that I think it might be in my head, but like I'm not sure.
When I've looked at it before, I haven't looked at it in depth, but it has a lot of like kind of marketing features on it. When I went to it, it was actually really slow to load. I remember that.
Okay. Right.
But it looked like it had a lot of like, whiz bang marketer stuff going on, but I don't really know it in much detail.
Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, like I can tell you this. So I think it is the one I'm thinking of. That Vitalytics is like the video player that's built for marketers, that people that care about how their videos are being consumed. They want to understand what's going on inside them, like to the vast extent of my knowledge, which is pretty up to date. Like we're the only ones with, I'd say 90% of the stuff that I showed you today. These are features that you don't have elsewhere. I think Voo Player may not be hosting either. It may just be the player. And then it's like a skin. And there's also pressplay.io from a guy named Mark in the JVZoo world. And yeah, he also is the guy that has Pay Kickstart. So like that's a layer that sits on top of something like YouTube. And this is a big reason why we would never build something like this, because it's because it adds a layer, right? And these things can be cool and there's a place for them. But like it adds a layer to the load, right? So it has to go from YouTube to the player to like the user, and it adds a layer there. So I'm not sure, but I think Voo Player may work that way. And that's just like something you want to watch out for. And I think it's mostly surrounding like opt-in gates. And that's something we're definitely 100% going to be building soon. But other than that, like the stuff that I showed you today is totally unique and you really can't, so it's like an apples and oranges kind of thing right there. So.
Awesome. And here's a question going back to your content. What is your opinion on showing your face in a video versus not, or you know, I also know there's there is a place for like the slides with the moving text as you're talking, but face or not, like could you speak to that a little bit?
Well, I got a face made for radio, so I don't like showing my face. Maybe if I was a handsome devil like Chris, I'd be on camera more. But no, I'm joking around. All right, so the big disadvantage is that it's harder. You got to perform, you got to make eye contact. It's harder to edit it. Where like, when you do any type of thing that's not a face, you can slice it together, right? So we'll do animations and stuff like that. Like on Vitalytics homepage, you can see how these things come together. And like, you can literally chop it together and it's a lot easier. And I have like a little home, like studio thing. It's like a studio Recordio in a box for like, I think it was like 50 or 70 bucks. And it goes around my microphone here. And I just record on this desk that I'm at, which is a stand desk. It's a home office. So, right. So there's some disadvantages to doing face. Obviously, people are nervous. A lot of people want to do a good job, but here's the deal. Okay. When they started doing infomercials, I think it was in the very early 80s, maybe 70s, it was pennies to rent time at night because they deregulated the off-the-air time. And there would be, Dan Kennedy talks about this. I'm talking about him a lot today. I normally don't. But he would talk about how late at night where there used to be off-the-air stuff, there would be a guy at a like motel, like a Holiday Inn, and it was a home video camera recording him with an overhead projector, and he's talking about how to invest in real estate, right? Today, if you want to go and do a infomercial, it's about $100,000 to produce the video before you even go and spend any money on media, on buying like the spots, which is probably another $250,000 is the numbers I've heard. So this is what's going to happen online, right? So we've had that like the VSL, the video sales letter. with like text on screen and stuff like that. And that can be really engaging because people are reading and hearing and stuff like that. And really at the end of the day, it is definitely going to come down to your copy. But these are like things that you can do to boost engagement. So what we typically do is we will never do a pure text on screen like type of thing. And we'll either splice in stock footage at the beginning, and you can buy like a couple rolls like for I think 20 to 50 bucks a spot. And we'll splice that in with like the lead of the story, and we may have text on screen so they make sure they're getting it like before they turn on their sound. And then we might roll into a text on screen, more traditional VSL. But if we have images, we'll pan on them and kind of move them around just so it's more engaging. I know some of the biggest companies in the world that are doing like direct response videos are doing this as well. It's the same exact formula that they're doing. But here's the thing, there's a golden opportunity right now that's still like open. It's a lot harder than in 2010 when I started. To get a video to work, right? This is why I needed Vitalytics and I didn't need it then. And that's how like I got started, and this is why like this is the next chapter. But there's still this golden opportunity where you can have low production like videos produced, and like the nature of a video is that it's much, much more engaging so that people are going to pay attention to it more than like an ugly page. If you think about a page that's not responsive and hideous, people are going to bail on that right away, especially if they're on a mobile phone and things are broken. But a video, they'll forgive you much more so for like a low production of a video compared to a web page. So if you can go on camera and engage with people, I would definitely test it. But if you're starting out or you don't have a control, like a video that's profitable, like on traffic that's like cranking away, then I would start with something simpler, and I would start with just text on screen. I'd get that working. Then I'd do the stock footage splice in that I described. And then I would do talking on screen. And you could talk on screen for the first 2 minutes. It just comes down to how well are you on camera? Can you remember? Like, are you an engaging speaker? Like, because a lot of people will hire a voice actor, right? So they'll write a script, they'll send it to a voice actor, then they'll send like the audio to a video person, and they'll splice it together, and it can cost $500 to $1,000 on those contractors. Writing it could be $20,000, $50,000 if you're hiring somebody really, really, really good, or it could be like $1,000 or something. Or I write all my own scripts most of the time. I have partnered with copywriters and friends that have come in on projects with me as well. But anyway, so that's kind of the evolution of how I do that. Subjective call. If you can pull off talking on camera, definitely do it and try it and test it. But it wouldn't be the first test I do, because it's much more important, just to wrap this up, is to test big ideas, like pain points you're talking to, right? Like say it's Spanish, going back to the Spanish example. Is this somebody that wants to learn it for work? Do they want to learn it for traveling? Do they want to learn it to speak to a family member, right? Why do they want to learn it? How much time? What else have they tried? I mean, this is like an avatar exercise that I'm going into. We're talking about like, okay, like who's this person I'm talking to? And you want it to be like, all right, here's Patrick Stiles. He's 33, he's bald, he owns businesses, he's married, he lives in Denver, Colorado. What does he want to buy, right? He wants to learn Spanish for 30 minutes a day so that he can relieve his guilt of living in Spanish countries for 15 months and not learning like more than 200 words and speaking like a caveman, so he can talk to his mother-in-law, right? Like, so that would be me, right? So it's like, are you too busy with all the other commitments you have, and like you're bald, so you don't want to do anything else where you got to show your face? No, I'm joking. But so you talk to that person, right? Or maybe this is somebody that's like, hey, do you got a big business trip coming up? Learn Spanish for business. Listen, most Spanish courses teach you all this stuff that you don't need to know about everyday Spanish. You don't need to know how to like, ask how many aunts somebody has, but you need to talk to them about like business terms. This is a course for business, like Spanish for business, and you learn it fast. Right, so that's a different big idea. So I would test those and get those things dialed in, then go and test these other things. But in like 10 years, I strongly believe that it's going to be just like infomercials today, and it's going to cost $100,000 to produce a video that has a fighting chance of working at all. So get to it.
Awesome. Yeah. I mean, I would say the same in that, like, even in some industries, like let's say make money online or something.
Whoa!
It's it's not like this whole thing isn't new, but it's actually online education. It's early days still. Like,
especially that one.
Yeah. When you're teaching stuff, just getting up and running, getting your video going, getting your website going. It's still very early, and there's so much opportunity out there. This ship has not sailed.
Not even close.
Right.
Yeah, especially in those niches, right? Now, like in those big companies that are doing the talking on camera, they're the ones that are like in finance, investing, or relationships, or weight loss. Okay. Those are the three biggest markets, and in direct response, in selling direct to consumers, as opposed to brand advertising like Super Bowl commercials or billboards. And it's health, wealth, and relationships. And they say that or what you can also say, the three biggest like markets are weight loss, weight loss, and weight loss, right? We're all fat and we all need to lose weight. I just did a juice fast and lost 14 pounds in 14 days. But but in these, if you're teaching something that's more niche down, that's like not that, or like or more like kind of niche down version of even one of those markets, then you can get away with that. I know a lot of people in the dating niche and the relationship niche that I've already mentioned. I just happen to meet these people and then they introduce me to each other and stuff. So, and they're great people and it's very competitive space, at least certain segments of it, right? But
well, you can study what's going on in those mega niches and bring it to whatever
that's the trend.
Cottage niche is.
Yeah, exactly. But these dating guys that are teaching like, you know, how to meet women or what else, I disavow anything they're doing, but they're not doing high end production and stuff like that. So
yeah, that's really good. We've got a question about your offer from Mark Mays. He's asking do you have a developer plan for folks who manage content for clients? So basically he's looking for a bigger plan than just himself or some kind of, you know, what do you
definitely. We have an agency account. And there's a couple ways that we can slice that. So I would say like get in touch, mention this, Mark Mays. I'll remember your name and then we can get you on that and stuff. And there's a couple ways to do it just so everybody else kind of knows. And it's not just this private convo with Mark, but you can so we have an affiliate system, we have a referral system, and then you can also do something where you're managing people's accounts. That one may not be totally ready for prime time. I'd have to check with our development team and see like where it's at. But this is something where it's like, okay, like you buy a block of 10 and we charge you say like $20 for each one or something like that. And you can go and charge $50 or do it for free or have it as a like value add to your service. This is also really good for some people that are like, I don't want to just make a video and give it to somebody and have them be on their merry way. I want to like make all these people's videos, right? Or I want them to pay me a retainer of $100 a month and get like, you know, 20 people on this kind of plan. And then that way, if you're managing this stuff for them and like you can upload the videos or do this stuff, then like that's a way to kind of like keep them married to you as a service provider. The other thing too, that's really cool about Vitalytics is you can say like, hey, listen, I'm going to make this video for you, but I only work with clients that are dedicated to having really successful businesses. If you're looking for just some like podunk video that can like go on your page and like be just a placeholder and you really don't care how good it looks or like how well it works, then go on Fiverr. Go on Upwork and hire somebody that's you know, less expensive than me because I'm not the low cost provider, but I'm the best value. And part of that value is that we're going to do this first video and we're going to talk to your customers and we're going to see what works with these analytics. That I have a special relationship with this company, Vitalytics, because I came to this awesome webinar with Chris from Lifter LMS. And anyways, we're going to be like working on this and we're going to play with like the call to action buttons or like the drop off or like, you know, all this stuff. And then that way it has this built-in proof where you can point to these numbers and show it to your client and say, this is what we need to redo next. And this is a plan where over the next 12 months, we may do half a dozen iterations of this video and it's going to be much more effective. Because if you just want a video so like your buddies on like can check it out and you brag about it at like, you know, the golf course or whatever, then I'm not the guy for you or gal, you know, or non-binary person. So anyways, that's an idea, but yeah, get in touch. We'll figure it out. And that goes for anybody else. Please mention Lifter though. So like, I know where we had this conversation and stuff. And I'd like to also get you like a special pricing that's kind of queued off of the Lifter Pro plan. I didn't see that coming, so I didn't even prepare it. So.
Cool. Mark said, perfect. He can wait a bit for the agency plan. He signed up for
Get in touch. It may be ready. It may be easier than I think. So.
He said he already signed up for the plan you talked about. So, and he said woohoo for Zapier. So,
okay, cool. We're thinking about a week on that one before it's released, but all the Lifter people are going to get it and stuff. So, if you need Zapier, actually, we could even maybe beta test it with you. So, of course, like we have our own stuff when we talk to the Zapier people, but that might be cool. So, we're really
awesome
pumped about that one.
Cool. Well, I think we've got our last question here. And again, this is the last chance. If anybody, oh wait, more coming in. That's cool.
We'll come in. Don't be shy.
Keep them coming. And if anybody wants to raise your hand and go live and, you know, have a voice conversation, please
do it. Do it.
Randy asks about, is the Vitalytics player customizable to match the color profile of the website?
Oh, yeah. So actually a lot of players only have one color. So We have two, foreground and background. All right. So like kind of like the colors of the controls and then the color that's like behind it. It's like a shadow on the bar. You can turn on or off any one of those buttons. So you can have big play button, little play button turned off or on. The seeking bar, which is really good for sales videos, because like, especially if you're grabbing somebody's attention, they go, okay, but like, what is this? How long is it going to take? Right? That objection of annihilator, that's like one of their first thoughts. And if they see the seeking bar for like 90 minutes, they're not going to do it. I know 90-minute videos that have sold 100 grand a day. So you kind of got to like, do these things, but you can turn on or off all those things. And that call to action button that you saw in the video earlier, that is also controlled by the foreground and background colors that's set on that player. Each player, like each video, can be a different one that you want. Another thing that we didn't talk about is you can embed this video on your page, and then you can make changes to it in Vitalytics and publish them at any time, and it immediately pushes live. It takes like 2 seconds or something for it to be pushed to our system. And so you can play with the colors if you change your website, but you still have the embed code, or if you want to like upload a new thumbnail or try disabling pausing or some of these buttons and stuff, you just go into Vitalytics and hit publish. And then in Vitalytics, while you're playing with that, you can see it live and stuff. So, and we have like training and a help desk and support staff that will walk you through all this stuff. So for you to be able to maximize all these like features.
Amazing. Joy has a question, and
Joy, it's a cool name.
You're a multi-talented person. She says, did I just
that.
understand Patrick to say that he helps with production versus platform hosting and analytics? But I think you were speaking in the words of somebody who's doing a service for others, right? Like when you were answering Mark's question, you were talking about selling analytics as
we don't do that stuff. Yeah. We do that stuff in-house.
Yeah.
So like we do, like we produce our own videos, and it's like a competency that's been inside of my companies for a couple of years. So we don't do that, but we have referral partners and stuff like that, or like, preferred vendors. So if you need somebody to fulfill something for you on that, like video editing, voice acting, or something like that, we can do it. I've also thought about putting together some training just about how I create videos. And it's everything from, I use a program called Scrivener to write it. And so I use the framework, I fill it in, and then I flesh it out. I hand it to my assistant that turns it into slides if I'm doing the voice and all this stuff. And then I have like a home studio, and then we do all these things. So I could also do that. We're able to, and what's really nice about that, having that competency in-house, or just finding like contractors that you can like go to, is same with like developers, right? It's like when you find a really good developer that's like affordable and really good, then it really opens up your world of what you can do and have that reliance and stuff. So, and when you can do it on the cheap, then you can start testing these different ideas or making your videos much more engaging and stuff. So if you guys want that type of training, let us know. And I'll talk about it.
Yeah. So Joy said she would be interested in a list of preferred providers. So go bug Patrick on Vitalytics.com, or go find him in the Lifter LMS Facebook group and start tagging him and stuff.
Yeah, no, that'd be cool. And
she's interested in the training too. So
cool. I have a lot of trainings on these things. Yeah,
if you need a course platform for your training, I know exactly who to talk to.
Of course. Yeah.
And I just want to highlight on something you said about service providers. We recently added to the LifterLMS.com website a Lifter LMS experts page.
Oh,
so making it easy for people to connect with some people that you trust or whatever. People are enjoying and liking that, and it's a cool thing.
Yeah. So I mentioned how I used to own a recruiting firm.
Yeah.
All right. So, and I was a recruiter for about 5 or 6 years. I owned the recruiting firm for about 2 years. It overlapped a little bit with the supplement company, the first one, Zen Life, that I started. And I thought I knew how to hire people when I was a recruiter, because I would like pound the phone and put together deals and stuff. And as an entrepreneur, I've hired, in the last year, I've hired and fired at least 20 people, on Vitalytics, and then like my other business and stuff. So I do that a lot. So I also have a process for hiring people, and it's just a way to go and find talent like that's really good and is going to meet your needs and work well with you. So that's something else that we could talk about, is my process for hiring. And I think it's a superpower, meaning like it's a big leverage point, right? Like you as an entrepreneur, whatever you're doing, it's like, are you a good, so like with marketing, it's like, are you a good copywriter? Are you good traffic person? Are you like an authority where you can be the face of the brand and like, like create the contents behind it, and you find people to partner with on these other things? And then the other one is hiring, right? And it's like finding people that are gonna, come and share your vision and stuff. And they could just do it for a paycheck with like a contracting fee, or you can also get people to come and work with you full time. But that's just part of the process of like getting that message out there and finding people that resonate with you, because it's about people. We can't do this alone.
Yeah, you have to wear many hats. In the spirit of today's call, don't be a video hosting company. Go get some Vitalytics.
Yeah, you could try it, but yeah, it's not going to go well. So.
Well, Patrick, I just want to say how much I appreciate you coming on the show, or on the webinar here. There is a podcast episode coming up where we get into more stuff. So for those of you who want more Patrick, stay tuned.
Yeah, right. I don't even know if my wife wants more Patrick.
Some of these people just met you today, though. So
right, yeah, she's had a heavy dose. So yeah, she's 3 years in.
Yeah. But I really enjoy our time together.
Oh, cool, thanks.
I feel like kindred spirits with you. A lot of similarities in our stories and how we how we roll and stuff like that. And
that's really cool.
Some people are saying thanks in the chat and the questions.
Awesome. Thank you. This has been a lot of fun. I hope it was valuable. And yeah, let me know how else I can help the Lifter LMS community. I think you guys are really awesome. So, and it was a total effing blast to come on here.
Absolutely. Well, for those of you who are watching this, I'd encourage you to watch it again. There were so many knowledge bombs dropped. Get out a pen and paper, capture some actionable items to do with your videos or your platform. And check out the Lifter LMS Vitalytics Pro plan that's available for a short time with a huge discount, which we're very grateful for. Appreciate that, Patrick.
Of course.
And
awesome.
Yeah, we're going to have to do it again sometime. So thank you so much for coming.
Yeah, I'm talking about all these trainings. I keep meaning to do my own YouTube channel, but I'm just like so busy that I tread water on a lot of like the things I want to do. So maybe I'll just produce all the content for your people.
That sounds good. I can be the guiding force for you.
If I could just show up and talk, it's easy. So yeah, we'll see. But awesome. Looking forward to it, man. Thanks so much.
Right on.